just trim off the fins at the side, the tail, bits here, take off the head, and then what I do is I'd get the skin from here, pull it off, and I use a cloth, pull it off, and I'd always leave the bottom skin on. Obviously there's guts and things sometimes that are in here that need to be pulled out. It looks quite clean. We'll have a look at it in a minute. Right, anyway, it doesn't matter for this because all we actually need is we need the 4 fillets. So rather than worrying about doing extra prep than what you need to do, we'll just do what we need to do. So there's a natural line you can see down the fish. So I'm just going to use my knife just to cut down. And it naturally, you start to come down one side of the spine. Now what you need for this is a really bendy knife. Just up the top here, you'll hear a couple of pin bones that you're cutting through. But then what you do is you're pushing the knife down at an angle like that, so you're going as far, and so you're pushing against the bones, and what you don't want to do is try and lift it up so you're going through the flesh. So I'm just getting through those few pin bones, and just be careful because there are a bit of guts there. Just running my knife along, and when it's clear of the flesh, I'm then just going to bring my knife underneath. So there I've already got one fillet, okay? I'm just going to pull off the roe. You all know what the roe is, so that's the eggs, okay? So already got one fillet off clean. Come to the other side now. This one will come up higher, and obviously when we've got these flat fish, we need to get off as much meat as we can. So you watch the line, it'll come up to the head here. So we're going to come up as high as we can behind the head to take off as much fish as we can. Now what's going to happen is the top fillets are going to be bigger than the bottom fillets. And obviously this one on this side is going to be bigger than the one on the other side. So when you're doing 2 portions, what's really important to do is to make sure that you mix and match the largest and the smallest, and then the 2 medium ones together. So you've got 2 even portions. Just down here. Again, just running the knife along. Try and make sure it's nice clean cuts. And again, I've come clear of the fillet, so now I'm just going to run my knife down. Now I've got my next fillet, okay? So, just making sure all the time, so you have a jake off, keeping your board nice and clean. I don't want to see guts and blood everywhere, because they're going to damage the quality of the fish. Because if you went out to have fish, you'd obviously loads of blood over it. Just by your faces, you're already put off by that, so you don't want to see it on your food. So, again, we've got a natural line. You'll see a very thin natural line going down here. You'll see it when you get to prep it. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to again run my knife right down that natural line. And then it comes down the side of the spine again, and then I'm just going to run my knife along. Get through those few pin bones at the top. If it's getting in the way, free it up so it makes it easier for you to see behind it. So now I've come free of the fillet, so again I can just again, nice clean fillet. Quickly finish off this last one. Hear it click there as I'm running my knife, and it's just running along those rib bones. tray of the fillet again, so I'm just going to come underneath. Start to cut through the row again. I'm just going to release that off. So obviously that is then going to be, let me just move that across. Thank you. So that's obviously already going to go just straight in the stock. What you can do, just to get more flavour out of it, you can just get a knife and just chop it up into about 4 or 5 pieces just to fit into the pan easier. Okay, so next bit, again, clean your knife, clean your board. There's a bit of muck on the board. Again, I don't want that on my flesh. So from underneath, just a little bit of you lose that little bit of toe. You don't want that anyway, it's going to be really tough. And then we're just going to come underneath. Remember to have the knife pushing into the board, and then I'm just going to run my knife along. And what you'll see is that actually the portions that we actually need are going to be quite small. So again, into the stock, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to trim. So there's a little bit to trim off there. And then just here around the ribs, just be careful. Sometimes you might get a few little bones, so worth just looking. And I'm going to just take off that little bit of silver skin there. There's a little bone in there. So to come away with that, there is a little bone just in there. So already now I've got one of my fillets trimmed. Now, on here we've got 2 sides to the fish. The nice presentation side. What do I call that side with that marking on it? The bloodline, exactly. So that's the side that we want to put the mousse on. So when we roll it up, we don't see it. Okay, so I'll quickly get these other ones done, and then what we can do is start on the mousse. All times, what I don't want to see is us working in complete muck and mess. Nice and clean and tidy. Yeah. So this one's quite clean. You just want to take off those frills. There's a little bone just there, stuck to the fillets. Just cut underneath it, and then we just take that off. That almost would tear off, but just cut it just in case. So one, this one. There's a couple more bones stuck on there, so we're just going to come underneath them. Like I say, there's not much flesh on a place at all. So what we want to do is make sure that we use every single bit that we can. So if you're really vicious with the knife, there'll be nothing left to eat. Okay? So this is the one that's a little bit hard to trim. There's a few bones there. Try and save as much of that flesh that I can. So now I can have a look at which are the best. So that's the smallest, that one's the largest. So we'll have that as one portion, that as the other. So now I can clean down all of these bits. So that's for our stock, and that's what I want to see. So just do a little close up on the tray. That's what I want to see, and then we just cut up the bones. So bloodline up, and they're ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the mousse now, and then afterwards we'll fill it. And what we need to do is make sure that we season that fish, because whenever we've got the opportunity to stuff fish, it means we can get the seasoning inside. When you have like a big piece of meat, it's really hard to get the seasoning inside. So when you're doing any sort of stuffing, that's your opportunity. Okay? Now, but I'm being quite heavy on the salt. As you know, I love salt, and plus as well with the white fish, you really need to bring out that flavour. So white pepper along there as well. I'm just gonna. You see, you don't need much, but this is actually, because the protein is quite small, this is going to add to it, make it that little bit bigger. Leave that there. I'm just going to spread it on. In. Use that as a collar for my fish, and that's just going to hold it in shape, you see. Obviously, as this hits the heat, plastic is just going to kind of tighten just slightly around it. So don't worry about it being loose or anything like that.
What about like the end? Just you haven't covered the top bit.
This mousse has got quite a lot of fish in it, and it's got quite a lot of egg. So it's not going to just run it. It's going to almost poach it and set it. So don't worry. When they're done, until you need them, where are they going to go?
In the fridge.
In the fridge. So, if somebody can just, they'll put this mousse in the fridge for now. There's obviously a piping bag there. If you want, there's herbs and things. So there's chervil, there's tarragon, different things. You can add a bit of lemon zest to yours. Put it in a piping bag. I'll empty that out. So just put the mousse in the fridge for now, and then let's get our fish out. If somebody can just, I'm just going to go and put mine in the fridge out the way. Where's my other equipment?